The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, addressed a letter on Monday on the occasion of the first day of the 20th edition of the National Week for the Holy Quran in the province of Mostaganem in western Algeria. The letter was read by the Religious Affairs Minister, Mr. Youssef Belmehdi. The letter first highlighted that Algeria is about commemorating the 66th anniversary of November 1st, 1954, marking the outbreak of the Algerian Revolution. November 1st, says the letter, represents the beginning of a glorious chapter of the history of Algeria. November 1st, it goes on to say, will also be the date decided for the inauguration of a new religious, scientific and cultural landmark embodied by the Great Mosque of Algiers. The President's letter says the mosque will be a symbol of the values and the wealth that Algeria deems to be sacred, notably mosques and Quranic schools. These symbols, which are the cradle of Algeria's revolution, also contributed to the education of the Algerian religious elite as well as all learners of all ages of the Holy Quran who all seek to master recitation. Young learners honored their teachers and their parents on the occasion of several recitation contests which are regularly held throughout Algeria to mark the birthday of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. The President of the Republic assured later in his letter that the amendment of the Constitution, which shall be submitted to a referendum next November 1st, will aim at establishing new reform grounds that will guarantee popular unity needed to guide the Algerian society and create a favorable atmosphere allowing the mustering of all Algeria's resources in terms of creative competencies and a peaceful and free social consensus under the civilizational values that ensue from the Holy Quran and the Algerian people's attachment to the remembrance of his glorious history. In this context, the initiative of celebrating a Remembrance Day and launching a new television channel dedicated to history can only confirm the state's determination to direct Algeria into a safe harbor. The letter says the future aspired to through the amendment of the Constitution, which again is at the core of the demands of the blessed popular movement, Al-Hirak. The letter concludes by saying that the reforms that are hoped for and promised by the head of state will protect the country from corruption and promote a better national climate that will encourage the liberation of all potential innovating competencies in peace and serenity, whether in Algeria or abroad.
Despite the coronavirus pandemic, pupils are getting ready to go back to school in 2 days' time. Authorities are preparing for the start of the school year by putting in place the best safety conditions. In Sétif province, eastern Algeria, 35 buses were distributed across local municipalities in order to assure the pupils' transportation, notably in remote areas. More buses are planned to be put at the disposal of other municipalities in the province, which include 891 primary schools. The educational bodies of the province of Naama is welcoming for the new school year 67,000 students. Safety measures are enforced to face up the risk of contamination by COVID-19. The province of Naama is witnessing an expansion of its educational infrastructure, notably mentioning new high schools, 3 colleges and a new elementary school ready to receive students, in addition to 16 new school canteens. On the eve of the start of the school year, supermarkets, shops and markets are stormed by parents who make several purchases of clothes and school matters. This parent is saying that he made a quick tour of the stores to choose the best items for his children to go back to school. In order to allow parents to buy good quality school matters, quality controllers have been dispatched to stores and supermarkets. The beginning of this school year is quite special, notably due to the current COVID pandemic that calls for heightened vigilance.
The 2021 Finance Bill presented this Monday before the Finance and Budget Committee of the National People's Assembly provides an increase in the deficit of the public treasury to 17.6% of the gross domestic product, according to a statement by the Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, presented on his behalf by the Minister of Relations with Parliament, Basma Azwar. It's worth recalling that the increase of the deficit of the Treasury recorded since 2019 is mainly related to a backing by the Treasury to cover the structural deficit of the pension fund. As explained by the Finance Minister, In this context, he stressed that the national medium-term budget framework planned for the period 2001-2023 would enable the government to carry on the implementation of its strategy, which is based on the control of public expenditure and the gradual improvement of tax revenues, while maintaining the support of the state to the needy through social and health packages.
The Energy Minister and President of the OPEC Conference, Mr. Abdelmajid Attar, took part on Monday through video conference in a working session of the 23rd edition of the OPEC and non-OPEC Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee devoted to examine the situation of the international oil market, notably prospects for development in short and medium terms. Mr. Abdelmajid Attar declared that the respect of production quotas rate for OPEC was put at 107% for the month of September, and the compliance rate for non-OPEC countries was put at 95%, which he pointed out reached an average of 102. Mr. Attar spoke of a good performance because he added it's backed by the major producers. He further mentioned that, given Gabon had a low production level of 15%, which he said is equal to 104,000 barrels per day. He stated that this fact hasn't an impact on the OPEC offer.
As the awareness campaign of the draft amendment of the Constitution is in full swing for the 13th day running, the Amanoko of the Ahagar Ahmed Idabir on Sunday pleaded in favor of the Constitution project. He called on Algerians to vote yes during the next popular consultations and affirmed that a favorable vote constitutes a guarantee for the citizens' rights and the development to which the populations of the region aspire. Speaking at a popular meeting in the presence of dignitaries of the region, the Amanoko said that his fellow citizens would always stand ready for decisive national events. On a working visit of inspection in the province of Boumerdès, the Housing Minister and Urban Planning Kamel Nasri said that the draft constitutional amendment guarantees the right to accommodation, especially for the underprivileged, emphasizing the social character of the Algerian state, which he said would pursue the implementation of housing programs in various existing formulas. The president of the movement Al-Islah, Filali Ghwini, called on the audience to participate massively in the next popular consultations of November 1, 2020, affirming that it is a national priority. For his part, the vice president of the movement, Albina Ahmed Eldan, said that the new version of the constitution tallies the project and the program of his party. Mr. Ahmed Eldan urged his followers to vote yes and invited the local population to do likewise to preserve the national transition process and confirm the popular legitimacy. The member of the bureau in charge of the Great South of the FLM party, Mr. Mustafa Ahmed, also pleaded in favor of the draft constitutional revision. To achieve, he said, the expected changes and build a stable Algeria.
The National Independent Election Authority recommended the mandatory wearing of masks, observing physical distancing, and using sanitizer gels. Allocating halls and other places to host these gatherings and meetings are submitted to prior authorization issued by the administrative authority and based on the strict implementation of the health protocol. The National Independent Election Authority called on everyone to show responsibility by ensuring the strict implementation of the barrier measures put in place in order to avoid any potential spread of the coronavirus and thus preserve the health and safety of the citizens.
214 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 9 new deaths were announced on October 19th by the spokesman of the scientific committee in charge of monitoring the evolution of the COVID-19 pandemic, Professor Jamal Fourar. Mr. Fourar said that 22 provinces have reported no new cases over the last 24 hours. 127 patients were recovered and were discharged, while 39 others are still in intensive care. Professor Fourar stressed the need to remain vigilant and observe healthy measures through the mandatory wearing of face masks.